Both vasectomy and tubal ligation are mortal sins, as they voluntarily render to merit a relationship infertile, whose main purpose is precisely the generation of children. The two operations are called direct sterilization and have already been condemned numerous times by the Church. These procedures, however, are not to be confused with a surgical intervention that, performed for another purpose, causes infertility in a collateral way, as for example when the uterus or tubes are removed because they are taken by cancer. This distinction is very well explained in a reply of the Holy Office, given on August 11, 1936. A surgical operation leading to sterilization is certainly not an action intrinsically bad in terms of the substance of the act, and can therefore be lawful as long as it is necessary for health or healing. But if carried out on the purpose of preventing procreation, it is an action intrinsically evil because of the absence of right in the agent. Since neither the private person nor the public authority has direct power to dispose of the members of the body that extends until then. I've had a vasectomy or tubal ligation. What do now to return to the state of grace? The first step is to have sincere repentance and purpose of amendment, and then to confess to the priest. Before the confession, you must already have the firm intention of seeking the clinical reversal of the procedure, if it is possible, of course. It is not necessary to reverse the operation before going to the priest. It suffices that there is a firm intention to try to reverse it. With these provisions, you must go to the priest and go to confession, stating the time you had the vasectomy or tubal ligation, 10 years ago, for example, and asking forgiveness for marital relations made in total closure to life during that period. If you have received communion during this period, it is also necessary to confess your communions in sin. If you have already made a general confession telling all these details of the past life, it is not necessary to repeat them. What if it is no longer possible to reverse the sterilization surgery? If, after looking for doctors who are specialists in reversal, preferably Catholic and pro-life, the conclusion is that there is no longer any possibility of reversing the operation performed, that is not why you should be worried. Live normally the life of a Catholic with your spouse, communing and confessing regularly, because, as stated above, what is necessary to validly receive absolution is the firm purpose of repairing the sin. If the penitent is willing to make reparation, but no longer has the means to do so, he still already has the necessary dispositions to be absolved. In that circumstance, how are the conjugal relations made in the present? Are they lawful? If the spouses voluntarily render the sexual act infertile, for example, using a condom, coitus interruptus, having tubal ligation or vasectomy, this marital relationship is morally illicit, as it violates the main purpose of the sexual act and marriage, which is the generation and child's education. However, when the spouses have repented of this act and no longer voluntarily prevent the generation, the sexual act is morally lawful. Therefore, if there is no longer the possibility of reversing the vasectomy or tubal ligation, the sexual act of the spouses will be morally lawful, given that they have sincere repentance and the firm intention of repairing the harm, if that were possible, and, as they will not be incurring sin, they will be able to communicate lovingly. When to look for reversal? As already said, if you have the firm intention of reversing the operation you performed, you can now confess and return to full communion with God. As for when to look for the reversal, it is important to do so as soon as possible. The expression as soon as possible does not mean that you must do so immediately when leaving the confessional. It is enough that you do not neglect this obligation to repair the damage, seeking the opinion of a doctor as soon as possible within your financial and psychological conditions. If the procedure carried out is irreversible, it is important for the spiritual life that the couple offer small sacrifices and penances as a way of combating any possible tendency to experience sexuality in a selfish way, since, according to a providential disposition of God, The unitive aspect of the sexual act must never be separated from its procreative dimension. This does not mean to say that every conjugal act must necessarily produce children, but that the Catholic couple must exclude any action that, either in anticipation of the conjugal act, or during its performance, or also during the development of its natural consequences, it is proposed as an end or as a means to make procreation impossible. In order to fully understand the reason for this disposition, which, before being of the Church, comes from the natural law itself, from the way God created and ordained human beings, it is worth making a careful and thoughtful reading of the encyclical Humanae Vitae of the Pope Paul VI. More than 50 years have passed since its publication. Never before has this document been so current, important, and providential.